Hey guys, Coastals Worldwide here, and today I'm going to be counting down what I think are the top 20 Intamin roller coasters in the world. So this was originally going to be a top 10 video, however, there's too many good Intamin coasters to compile it into a top 10. I thought I was leaving stuff out. But anyway, this video is probably going to be a longer one than what you're used to, besides like the podcast and stuff. But anyway, please give a like, because it's going to take a long time to edit this. But anyway, before it gets any longer, let's get into this video. So number 20 is Storm Runner at Hershey Park. Now this coaster has a great launch. Like the launch looks pretty strong. And yeah, also the inversions and the elements on this coaster are pretty unique, especially the Flying Snake Dive, which is basically a heartline roll into a dive loop, which is super cool. And then, yeah, but overall the whole coaster is a bit on the short side, which is a bit of a problem. Number 19 is Superman Escape at DC Movie World in Australia. This coaster has great airtime in places. Again, it's another launch coaster. It has a nice indoor section before you go out onto that launch, which is pretty cool. However, if you take away the indoor section, the coaster's a bit on the short side again. But yeah, overall it's a nice coaster and a good fit for that park. Probably not talked about enough, if I'm honest. Number 18 is Formula Rosa at Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi. This coaster's got an outstanding launch, with it being the fastest roller coaster in the world. And yeah, however, it's quite badly trimmed on that first hill. So as it goes into some of those turns, they're not as forceful as they could be, along with those turns being a bit drawn out. However, the coaster's got some good airtime at the end over those humps, so I guess that's a redeeming factor. But overall, a great coaster and maybe a bit of wasted potential in my opinion. Number 17 is Negevskan at Via Land, sorry. But this coaster's got a great launch. And yeah, that goes into a pretty decent top hat. And then this coaster is yet again on the shorter side. However, it has easily the best single dive. That thing looks absolutely crazy. You fly over it, you go flying out of your seat. It looks outstanding. But yeah, as I said, it's a bit short and probably the weakest splits. Well, yeah, almost undoubtedly the weakest splits. Number 16 is Coaster Through the Clouds at Namchang, whatever the park is. I can't remember the name. This coaster's in Asia. And it was, as it first opened, it seemed to be incredibly overrated. Like, people used to think this is the best thing in the world. No, it isn't. It's a great coaster, but not top 10 in the world worthy. The drop looks incredible. Some of the forces around the coaster look pretty decent too. However, it's a bit repetitive. It's like loads of overbanks, some airtime hills, but it's just very repetitive in my opinion. Number 15 is Flying Aces at Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi. This coaster's got a great drop into the non-inverting loop. That non-inverting loop is crazy. Probably some decent airtime. Not as good as DC Rivals non-inverting loop though. But yeah, the overall ride looks to have some nice airtime, but it's not too relentless. Like, I'm not saying the pacing's bad. It just doesn't have much speed to begin with, and the elements are quite drawn out. So yeah, they could have done a bit of a better job designing this, but it's a pretty decent coaster by the looks of things. Number 14 is Goliath at Wallaby Holland. This coaster looks pretty decent, you know. It's got a nice drop and great airtime hills. Looks to give like great ejector and some floater. But the main problem with this ride is the middle section. It looks a bit boring, a bit drawn out, not as forceful as the rest of the ride, which is a real shame. However, overall, this coaster looks like a decent ride. I wish there was a bit more theming around the area. Maybe a bit of a better soundtrack. I don't know. Maybe more areas to get views of the coaster before you're actually on ride. But I haven't been to the park. I haven't ridden this coaster, so I don't know. Number 13 is Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. This coaster Looks really good, actually. However, a bit overrated, a bit not as good as people say it is. It's got a nice drop into some great airtime. Like, looks like you get thrown out of the seat. And the spaghetti bowl section looks to have some great transitions. However, it looks a bit rough, and the main problem with this ride is just how bad those restraints are. I've heard they're absolutely terrible. Like, they restrict you so much, and they're really uncomfortable, like, easy to get stapled with, which is a real problem. But this coaster looks pretty good, actually. Maybe I would say it's about right in rating area, like, not overrated, not underrated. But if it was to lean to either side, I'd probably say a little bit leaning over to overrated, especially in stuff like the Golden Ticket Awards. Coming in at number 12 is another overrated coaster in the Golden Ticket Awards, Millennium Force. This coaster has won so many Golden Ticket, has come first in the Golden Ticket Awards for the top 50 steel coasters so many times, like, until Fury opened. I think it had been number one for like 8 years, something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, the coaster's got a great drop. Like, of course, it's a Giga coaster and the first Giga coaster. The drop looks great. It looks like some great views over Lake Erie and over the rest of Cedar Point in that park. And then it looks like some decent airtime in places, some nice overbanks, but it's a bit overrated and not too forceful. Like, some of those overbanks look pretty forceful, however, it doesn't look like BAM, forceful, grey out material, blackout material in there. Not really. Number 11 is Taron. This coaster's kind of split into two in the community. Some people think it's really overrated and they kind of hate on it. Like, people that come to mind is like Ryan from Canada Coaster Fan and Roller Coaster. But then there's lots of German people who seem to rave about this coaster, like they love the thing to death. And personally, I think I'm kind of in the middle of this. Like, yeah, it looks like a great coaster, however, it's easily not, like, best in the world, as some people say. But then there's people who say it's, like, not even top 25 Intamin steel coasters, and I don't agree with that either. But anyway, it's got some outstanding theming, probably the best theming on any non-Disney roller coaster. And the best theming on any thrill coaster. The second section looks so much better than the first. I think it's the first section that kind of lets the ride down. Yeah, that second launch looks great, and then bam into all the overbanks and all the turns and the forces and stuff. But yeah, it's a bit repetitive and not forceful in the first section, which is the main problem with this ride. Okay, so now coming on to the top 10 now. Number 10 is Colossus at Heidi Park in Germany. This is probably the weakest prefab. And yeah, it's currently closed at the moment for retracking because of how rough it was, and I think something to do with the cars and stuff, like it was affecting it. But yeah, it looks like some great airtime when it operated and a fantastic drop. But this coaster's opening again next year, 2019. So I can't wait to see what happens to the coaster, whether it's improved, and hopefully it'll move up in these rankings a few more places, maybe past number 8. Okay, so number 9 are the Megalites. These are cloned coasters. There's 5 clones of them. 4 of them in Asia, 1 in Europe, and the most well-known clone is, of course, Piriton at Jura Summerland. These coasters look to have fantastic airtime. Like, besides that first hill, every hill looks to throw you out of your seat. Like, you go flying over some of those. And yeah, it's got some great transitions too. Some of those turns look really forceful. And yeah, it breaks up the airtime in places. And it's basically everything you could want in a coaster. Nice drop, great airtime, great transitions, nice forces. So yeah, overall, some great coasters. Really small, but very powerful. Sorry. Number 8 is our second prefab, Bauder at Liseberg in Sweden. This coaster looks to have relentless airtime. That's a main draw to this coaster. It's non-stop, bam, 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 airtime. Especially in that ending, like there's just so many hills. It sends you flying over every single one. Great ejector. It's also got a great drop, which also looks to provide some nice ejector. However, it's not got too many powerful laterals and not too many powerful positive forces, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, it still looks to provide a great ride and helps solidify Leesburg's top 2, soon to be top 3. Number 7 is Ice Speed at Mirabilandia and its clone Red Fire at VSC. This is basically Europe's Maverick, unless you talk about Red Fire, which is in the Asian part of Turkey. But we're just going to be talking about Ice Speed. It's basically Europe's Maverick. It's got great transitions, like really forceful, really whippy, great laterals. It's got a nice top hat. This coaster is very picturesque too. Like, it looks great in recordings and stuff. And what I think is the main best part of this coaster is the outstanding inversions. Like, they look so whippy, especially that first one. It just looks to throw you absolutely around, like so far. So it looks incredible, and definitely puts Maverick's inversions to shame, seeing as they're pretty weak. Anyway, speaking of Maverick, number 6 is Maverick at Cedar Point. This is probably the best coaster at Cedar Point. But yeah, it's got a great second launch, which is the main launch. Like, it's got a first launch. However, you can kind of argue whether that's a launch or not, because it kind of just works as a lift hill. But the second launch looks great. However, it stops on it, so it kind of kills the pacing. I wish it didn't have that stop. But still, the ride looks to have some great transitions and forces, like really strong positives, pretty decent laterals. The inversions are a bit weak. Like, I've heard they kind of kill the forces as you kind of get, like, you can kind of, like, I don't know, it just kills the relentless feeling of it. And then the ending, the double Stengo dive looks outstanding and looks to give sustained ejector, like, absolutely crazy. But yeah, number 6 is Maverick at Cedar Point. Okay, so number 5 is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. I used to think this was the best coaster in the world. Like, I absolutely love this thing. However, I've kind of come to terms with it now. But yeah, Intimidator 305 looks so forceful. Probably the most intense coaster on the planet, and I love intensity. So I'm guessing this coaster I would love. But it looks so forceful, especially that first turn. You come off the 305 foot tall drop, and wow, that turn, easily blackout material, like, wow, so powerful. I've heard everybody graze out on it, like, no matter what. So yeah, that's the most forceful moment on any coaster. Well, not like G-Force moment, because that's on whatever it is at Gold Reef City, but like, yeah, you know what I mean. But the ride's a bit repetitive. It just seems to, like, turn, and then a bit of airtime, turn. Like, yeah, it looks a bit repetitive. However, some people say it's too intense. I don't think there's such thing as too intense. But yeah, anyway, it looks like a great coaster. Number 4 is Skyrush at Hershey Park. Actually, let me just, before I get into this coaster, let me say, this top 4 is absolutely incredible. All 4 of these coasters are easily top 10 in the world. Absolutely crazy. Wow, they're just incredible. But number 4 is Skyrush at Hershey Park. The main problem with this coaster are the restraints. Like, I've heard they crush your thighs and, like, really tight. However, the coaster still gets rave reviews even with them. So that just proves how good it must be. The airtime looks absolutely insane. Some of those hills, great ejector, great sustained ejector. You go flying over them, like, out of your seat for seconds. Wow, just incredible. And then it looks to have some great transitions, great forces, great positives, great laterals, just wow. But yeah, and also it's got great pacing and variety. Like, this coaster never seems to get boring. It's just very relentless, very forceful, non-stop. There's the action. Wow, it looks incredible. Number 3 is T-Express Everland in Korea. This top three was actually this whole top four was hard to organise, but yeah, number 3 is T-Express, and wow, it looks to have a great drop, very well terrained, but then after the mid-course, it's basically just Bowder, but it looks to go through it with some probably faster speed than Bowder does, so the second section looks better than the whole ride of Bowder. It's also got a great location, great terrain interaction, and I've also heard it's pretty smooth. However, I'm not too sure about that factor, but I'm gonna agree just from what I've seen and POVs and reviews and stuff. But here we go, top 2 now. Number 2 is Expedition GeForce at Holiday Park in Germany. This coaster looks wow, probably the top steel in the world. Thinking about it, yeah, I think I would agree. Top steel in the world. It's got a fantastic drop. On the back seat, you'll get thrown out of your seat. Absolutely crazy. The airtime looks outstanding. Sustained ejector. Great, just pops of airtime, one after another, very relentless. Great transitions between the airtime hills, just wow. And then fantastic pacing and variety. Like, this coaster doesn't get boring. It's very well paced, very relentless, just incredible. And of course, number 1 is El Toro, the bull of a ride. Just wow. I think this coaster looks insane. For all those people who have Great Adventure as your home park, I'm so jealous. You've got one of, if not the best roller coaster in the world at your home park. Just wow, I'm so jealous. But anyway, let's get on to the coaster. It looks to have out of this world airtime. Probably some of the strongest, probably the best coaster for airtime in the world. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is that Rolling Thunder Hill. I've heard on good days it can hit over -2 Gs on that thing, which is absolutely outstanding. Yeah, and along with the outstanding negative G-forces in airtime, it looks to have some great positive forces at the bottom of that hill, at the bottom of the drop, and then some great laterals, just great forces. Yeah, the Rolling Thunder Hill, it looks to have great variety too. Like, it isn't just airtime, it isn't just turns either. Like, it's got the mix, it's got some really forceful turns, some outstanding airtime hills, non-stop action, very, very well paced. The drop looks great, it looks out of this world crazy, it's almost vertical. So yeah, it would throw you out of your seat, absolutely crazy, and wow. It's also relatively smooth, I've heard. However, it's getting rough these couple of years. And the pace on the coaster is absolutely perfect. Like, I couldn't wish for it to be better paced. Maybe it could be a little bit faster going through some of those last elements. However, I think it might be a bit unsafe, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, number 1 is El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. So yeah, that's it. My top 20 Intamin roller coasters list. Thanks a lot for watching. If you guys have made it to here, please just like the video. I spent so much time editing, recording, making this whole list. So yeah. Anyway, this video is long enough now. So thank you for watching, and see you guys later. Bye guys.